Hello and welcome along. So we're going to talk about the Ullanor Crusade and why it was so important and also what was really going on. What really was the Ullanor Crusade? Well, in many ways, it's the culmination of the Great Crusade. The Ullanor Crusade is launched to eliminate a massive Orc empire that is the largest that humanity has ever come across, and once defeated will be the largest it's ever defeated during the Great Crusade period. It also marks the last time that the Emperor took to the field as part of the Great Crusade. So it's a key turning point in the Imperium's history and is often held up as the moment that the seeds of the heresy were sown. So we have to ask ourselves, what was the Emperor's intention for Ullanor? What was it really about? And did it really sow the seeds for the heresy? Let's start off with what appears to have happened. So the Emperor and Horus are essentially leading the crusade together. Well, both the Great Crusade and the Ullanor Crusade, which is a crusade within the crusade. They're both being led by the Emperor and Horus kind of together. The Emperor is out with the fleets. He's leading the major expeditionary fleet. He is often taking to the field in actual combat. And Horus and him are working very closely together. Now, many of the other Primarchs are also accompany the Emperor in various battles, etc., with their legions, but Horus is the one that's closest to him and is the one that most often is fighting by his side. And also, the Emperor has taken to leaving the crusade from time to time to go and do other mysterious things. And when he does this, Horus has been the one that's left in charge, if you like. He's his first lieutenant in that sense. When we get to the Ullanor Crusade, something slightly different occurs. So the Emperor seems to take a bit of a back seat, and Horus is really doing all of the planning and doing all of the leading. So although the Emperor is around, he's there, he's physically present in the fleet. It's Horus that is leading. Horus is making the decisions. And the Crusade culminates with an attack on the Ullanor system, which is the center of this massive Orc Empire. So the Orc Empire has been attacked at various points by the combined forces of the Imperium and driven back to the point where their primary system is under threat. Horus then comes up with the plan to defeat them finally. As is the case in many of Horus's attacks, he likes this spear tip tactic where he tries to eliminate the leadership and then see the enemy armies fall apart because their leadership is being broken. Now, with Orcs, this works quite well because once whoever's leading them together, in this case the Overlord Urg, they break up. They'll turn to on themselves. There's lots of infighting. Everyone else will be like, okay, I should be in charge because I'm the biggest knob around here. And they'll all want to be war boss. After a period of fighting, eventually one will rise to the top and then they'll unite them briefly to build a new empire. But you can take advantage of that moment where their leader is killed, that immediate breakdown in discipline to wipe out what's remaining. Now, it works on other species as well. We uses it all the time on humans, but it works particularly well on Orcs. And so to attack the system, he decides to use the White Scars and the Ultramarines to attack the outer parts of the system. This draws more of the Orcs out into the outer areas of the system, leaving the central planet, the power base of this Orc overlord, less defended. So he attacks the planet with his Lunar Wolves and massive support from Imperial Guard and Titan legions. They hit the planet, and then this draws the Orcs out even further from the capital, the Orc war boss's fortress, citadel, palace, leaving it even more vulnerable. He then teleports his retinue, himself and his first company of the Lunar Wolves in Terminator armor, into this great tower that the Orc war boss is commanding his empire from. He then uses his Terminators to draw out even more of the Orcs so that he can finally assault the throne room. A hand-picked squad of Terminators is Justarian, who are commanded by Abaddon, and together they smash into the Orc warlord and his bodyguard, which is 40 big knobs. And Horus, not put off by the sight of 40 big knobs, smashes straight into them. This does lead to the entire squad of Terminators being killed, along with all of the Orc bodyguards. Horus manages to kill the Orc war boss in single combat, hurl him over the edge of the parapets of this tower, and break the Orcs. Abaddon does survive, breaks the orcs, and so then they're relatively easy to wipe out the rest of them. A few of them, obviously, many of them, because there's so many orcs, we're talking tens of millions of orcs probably across this area of space, escape after that. Many years are spent just chasing orcs across the galaxy, including all the way out to the outer reaches of the galaxy by the White Scars, whose main job is to do that, pursue these orcs from the broken Ullanor Empire out into, I think it's the Chondak system, where they're finally defeated. Now, of course, orcs will come back to haunt the Imperium later, but for this time, the Imperium genuinely believe the orcs are destroyed, broken forever, that there'll just be a few stragglers living across the galaxy. They're no longer a threat, an existential threat to the Imperium, which they were up to that point. They're so huge, this empire of orcs, that they were genuinely a threat to the Imperium, and to defeat them was a huge undertaking, but also an enormous victory. So then this is what's happened. Well, why did it happen? Is first of all, obviously, the Imperium can't expand, can't unite humanity if you've got this massive orc empire out there. The orcs had conquered previously human worlds and based their empire there, so they had enslaved many humans as well. So it was a natural progression of the Great Crusade to take back these planets, to eliminate the Xeno threat, and to just continue the Great Crusade. That's a normal part of the Great Crusade. However, there is something else going on here. This is the campaign, as I said, where the Emperor is going to step down afterwards. He's not going to be out on campaign after this. It needs to be a campaign where he can say, the big job's done. I'm going back home to do something else, and I'm going to leave it in the hands of Horus. So he's both saying this massive crusade against the orcs has broken their back, and so they no longer represent a threat to us, so you don't need me anymore. But at the same time, he's also saying, look, Horus did all of this on his own. I was here, but Horus was leading this all. Horus was making all the decisions. It was Horus's tactics that won it, and it's Horus that went in and killed this orc war boss, the greatest one we've ever fought. And then after that, during the triumph of Ullanor, the famous triumph where many of the Primarchs are brought to Ullanor to witness this great procession that celebrates the victory, and then they see the Emperor saying, I'm going to go back to Terra, I'm taking Dawn with me, and Horus is now in charge. And so the whole point of this campaign is to elevate Horus to this point where it's obvious that he should be the Warmaster, and that it's okay that the Emperor can go back, because he's just led this crusade that's bigger than anything they've ever done before, leading multiple legions, many Primarchs, massive forces from across the Imperium, and he's done it brilliantly and succeeded, and he didn't need the Emperor. And so everyone can see, this is, it's all okay. It's going to be okay. Yes, the Emperor's got to leave, and we were shocked by that, but it will be in good hands, in Horus's hands, and Horus is obviously the one that deserves it. And that was a big thing, because we all know that the Primarchs are a troubled bunch, and although some of them will just take the orders of the Emperor without thinking, there are many amongst them that would jump on anything that was a bit out of the norm to complain or cause problems. There's already rumblings amongst the other Primarchs. There's big rivalries between them. Mortarion has made it very clear he hates Magnus. Russ hates Magnus. Kurz is basically renegade by now after destroying his own homeworld. He's also nearly killed Dawn. So Dawn probably hates Kurz, I should imagine. Vulcan and Kurz have had a long-running situation where Vulcan was trying to bring Kurz into the fold, make him more normal, and has failed, and has kind of built up this massive resentment between them, mostly from Kurz towards Vulcan. Yeah, there's a lot of simmering rivalry, and the Space Wolves and the White Scars have developed a rivalry. The Lion and Russ have fallen out. Russ and Angron have fallen out. Well, a lot of people have fallen out with Russ, to be fair. But there's a lot of simmering undercurrents of problems. Now, of course, also on top of this, that's never really talked about in any of Heresy books, because for a very good reason, which is there's been 2 Primarchs that have already been purged from existence. We don't know anything about them because they did something that they led to them and their legions being purged from history before Ullanor. So there's huge problems under the seemingly shiny surface of the ever expanding successful Imperium. And the Emperor obviously knows all this because he's the Emperor, so he knows this, and he must be thinking, well, I've got to go because I've got to go and sort out this web raid project because that's the actual future of humanity. I need to do this. I need to take away humanity's dependence upon warp travel. So I need to finish this web raid project. So he knows he has to leave, but he also knows there's all these problems simmering away under the surface. And so he has to leave Horus in as strong a position as possible. And this is his way of doing that. He's given Horus the perfect chance to demonstrate just how amazingly good he is, and basically have a practice go at running a huge campaign without the Emperor really doing much, but just being there in the background. And then he can walk away after its success, because of course there's no guarantee it was going to succeed. Probably was going to, but it was no guarantee. And so once Horus has actually succeeded, it's also served that purpose as well. It's kind of like it was his ultimate test. Could he be the Warmaster? If he'd failed of achieving victory in the Ullanor Crusade, then the Emperor could have seen, oh, actually, maybe he's not up to this, and it would have been also much easier for him to then say, I'm going back to Terra and I'm leaving Guilliman in charge, or I'm leaving Sanguinius in charge. It would have been easy to take because Horus would have clearly seen he wasn't up to the job. Now, whether that would have also led to Horus falling, I don't know. It's possible because it could have been a big hit to his ego, but at least it would have been a justified reason why he didn't leave Horus as Warmaster, because up to that point, Horus had been the obvious candidate. Should the Emperor ever need to leave, although that was something that no one really considered would happen, it was Horus that would be the obvious choice because he'd been there from earlier than everybody else. And he, as I said, he had already stepped in when the Emperor was away. So that was relatively normal. But for him to become the actual true leader of the campaign of the Great Crusade, that was still a massive step for everyone to take. And so this whole Ullanor Crusade serves three purposes. It allows you to both eliminate the biggest threat to the Imperium that's known at that time. Two, allows everybody else to see how great Horus is and see that he can be the top dog. And three, it allows the Emperor to actually test Horus with the ultimate test of could he actually do it. And that's what I believe that's essentially what it was for. And that's why it happened. And it did succeed in all three of those things within the limitations of the circumstances, of the fact that, as I said, there were all these problems under the surface that weren't really Horus's fault and nothing, or the Emperor. Well, okay, it was mostly the Emperor's fault, but it wasn't really Horus's fault. But it put him into the best position possible to take over. That's what I'm basically saying. So then the next question is, well, were the seeds of the heresy sown there? Was it simply giving Horus command that caused him to become an egomaniac? Was it giving him command that caused the others to resent the Emperor and therefore turn on him when it came to it, when Horus asked them? Or was it doing this that gave Horus the power to influence the other 8 that would become traitor Primarchs? And I would say, no, I don't think it is. I don't think that this is the moment the heresy begins or is seeded. I think it goes way back beyond that. It's really all of those smaller events that were mishandled or were simply occurred the way they did because the ruinous powers, the chaos gods, were intervening and doing things to turn various Primarchs. So it's Magnus's pact with Tzeentch to save his legion that starts him down that path, long before he even knew anything about what could possibly happen. And it's the manipulation by the agents of chaos to achieve the Edict of Nicaea coming in and banning Psykers, which would then leave Magnus in a position where he's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. He can't stop the heresy happening because he needs to use his powers to do it, and he does use his powers, he's breaching the Emperor's edict. But that's all the plans of chaos. There's nothing really Horus being put in charge at all. It's Kerr's turn to chaos. Well, he doesn't really. I mean, he's already insane since he was found. He's already a renegade. He's already killed his own people, destroyed his own planet, and So he was there for the taking for Horus to just pick up and say, well, you can come and join me and we'll get some revenge on all of the people that have made your life bad. Mortarion is already a pretty terrible person. He's not. He isn't turned by Ullanor. He's not going, oh no, I can't believe you put Horus in charge. Now I'm going to be against you forever because I was loyal to you all the way up to this point. I mean, he was already deeply twisted by his experience on the planet he landed on and the kind of the treatment he received from his adopted father, etc. He was there for the taking for the Ruinous Palace, and of course they had their mark on him since the abduction of the baby Primarchs in their pods that were taken across the galaxy. So Ullanor itself and the promotion of Horus to Warmaster doesn't really change any of that. If anything, the Primarchs that were most affected by the promotion of Horus to Warmaster were the ones that remained loyal anyway. People like Guilliman or the Lion, Russ, maybe Dawn. These are people who think, well, actually, I should be doing this, and they were a bit annoyed by it. But because they were extremely loyal to the Emperor, it didn't change anything. It didn't make them think, oh, I'm going to start plotting against the Emperor now. And the ones that were more inclined to do things like that, like maybe Perturabo, who might be thinking, well, I could have done a better job, and in many ways he could have. He was already disgruntled with the Emperor, and of course, Lorgar was on his own journey towards chaos anyway, and had, again, nothing to do with Ullanor or Horus being made Warmaster. So really, in summary, Ullanor was a good thing to happen. It happened for the right reasons, and it achieved the right things for the Emperor, and it had really nothing to do with the Horus Heresy occurring. Anyway, what do you think? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share, and I will see you next time.